A few years ago, Gene Simmons, the lead singer of Kiss, made a statement that the rock community has not been able to stop talking about since. And he said, rock is finally dead. On a separate occasion, he expressed distaste for rap artists like Run-D.M.C, Grandmaster Flash, NWA, and now Tupac for being inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, stating that they talk, they don't sing, and they don't play guitar, so it's not rock and roll. Therefore, they do not belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, these are two sentiments that have people split right down the middle. On one hand, you have rock fans who think that rock music is on the verge of a major comeback to reclaim the throne of all that is great music, to bring it back to the way things used to be, when things were good and great. On the other hand, you have music fans who share the belief that rock and roll is more of a feeling, a spirit, if you will, that surges through different sounds and styles, like an ever-flowing river carrying the burden of human emotion and suffering, channeling the voice of each generation it passes through. To me, it seems a lot of people are looking for a rock and roll savior, someone to take rock music and bring it back into the pop charts. But isn't this mentality that rock music needs to reign supreme over other genres just absolutely absurd and outdated? Does your favorite music need to be the music that everyone listens to? And do you believe the number of digital streams and people in concert attendance all around the world dictate whether or not a genre is officially dead? No. Maybe rock and roll isn't dead. Maybe it just disguised itself as something else. Something you don't like. To me, rock is about attitude and rebellion and acting in opposition to the status quo. Rock is obnoxious, it's loud, it questions authority, it isn't proper, it's not supposed to be in tune all the time, it's plug in and play, piss your parents off, and most of all, it's young. Oh, so great. That means we're safe. Greta Van Fleet is young. They're going to bring back rock, and all is well with the world. Greta Van Fleet, if you don't know who they are, they're a new band of younglings who are being crowned the next Led Zeppelin. They're getting a lot of buzz in the rock scene right now. They've already opened up for AC/DC and Guns N' Roses. They've jammed with legends like Elton John, and they even got Robert Plant's attention where he said he hates them. Just kidding. Well, I'm sure he wasn't serious. He was just, a little upset that they didn't cite Led Zeppelin as one of their main influences. Now, in this Wall Street Journal article, Jason Flom, chief executive of Lava Records, the man who is responsible for signing Twisted Sister, Jessie J, and now Greta Van Fleet, and that's just to name a few, he states, with their retro sound, youthful energy, and good looks, Greta Van Fleet could appeal to three key demographics, Mr. Flom says. Older classic rock dads, younger male fans curious about 1960s and 1970s rock, soul, and funk, and young women who in the past have helped mainstream rock bands become pop stars. Now, a lot of people are excited about Greta Van Fleet, and at the same time, there are a lot of people who are accusing them of being very unoriginal, and they don't see anything special about the band. And to that, I say, let them just have their fun. Let everyone have their fun. You don't need to be a damper on people's fun. The same article then goes on to talk about Greta Van Fleet's Spotify streams, comparing their 7 million streams to Cardi B's 146 million streams for Bodak Yellow. Greta Van Fleet is dominating the rock charts. Every time they put out a single, it goes up to number one, it seems. But Post Malone just put out an album that broke the Beatles' 50-year record of having the most songs in the top 20. 50-year record. Post Malone broke that record. And Post Malone, by the way, if you see some of his live shows, he's covered bands like Nirvana, Sublime, Metallica, and he didn't do a bad job, by the way. Then you're having these dads who are saying, well, I'd rather my kids listen to this real music than that trap rap crap that the kids are listening to these days. Hence why rock and roll shows look more like Disney World in the year 2018 with a family-oriented crowd, and these SoundCloud rappers are throwing parties reminiscent of how rock shows used to look in the 1990s. And here's the thing, there's no need to worry because rock music is out there. There's good rock music out there. There's great bands. Greta Van Fleet is one of them. Forget about what you think about them being the next Led Zeppelin. Let's stop with the whole, we need a savior in rock and roll. Enjoy them for what they are. They're kids who are having fun, and that's what it should be about. Stop holding them up on this pedestal. Let them just do what they got to do, because maybe they will develop into something. You never know. They're a new band. They're young. Let them play out. One of my favorite modern rock bands, though, is Nothing More. I'm going to tell you why. Because they sound like they belong in the year 2018. It's a fresh sound. Their stage show is like second to none. If you've seen them, you'll know what I'm talking about. These guys are making gadgets and they're throwing themselves off of these machines. And they're very inventive with how they organize their sounds and all this stuff. They're a great band. They've got their crowds. They've got their buzz and people like them. You got the crowds. You got rock festivals all over the world. Who's to say that a band is unsuccessful if they're touring and they're playing venues that are at 1,000 capacity, but they're selling out those venues? That's a successful band, especially if they're selling merch. And you know what? If the rock crowd is older, that's the good thing. The advantage of having an older rock crowd is the fact that now these kids who were probably broke in the 90s are older, they've got jobs, and they're going to buy your hoodies, they're going to buy your shirts and your merchandise. And let me tell you something too. If you're a kid and your dad is telling you that this is good music, it probably is good music. But you can still piss him off, turning up those trap beats that have the bass all the way up. I used to think in the internet age that there was no such thing as an underground, but that's actually not true. The underground is thriving right now. There's a lot of great stuff happening. All you have to do is look. Find where the party is, the party of your choice, the party you want to go to, and go. Rock is only dead in the sense that it is not the sound of 2018. That's not to say that things won't change, but as of right now, today, this very moment, it is not the sound of 2018. If you really wanted rock to compete and turn some heads again, you're going to have to do some things differently. Number one, you're going to have to put more aggression and more feeling in every riff you play. You're going to have to turn it up to 11. You're going to have to put less emphasis on tone and making things sound clean and perfect, and more emphasis on aggression and f***ing madness. Sorry, I got a little too excited. Listen to Kurt Cobain's vocal at the end of Territorial Pissings. Vocally, there's absolutely no technique. It actually is probably the most unhealthy thing you could do for your voice. He's screaming. It sounds like he's being murdered. To the average ear, it doesn't sound too good. Like it doesn't have a pleasant sound. Yet, every time I listen to it, the hairs on my skin stand up. How many times have you told someone, oh, I don't like that song, but for some reason, like, why am I getting chills? Why? I don't like this song, but I got chills. Why? It's because you're listening to something real. There is something very real in what that person said and sang, regardless to whether or not you like the sound or not. My advice to everyone who's making music, if you're an artist and you're a band that's looking to really make your mark, just focus on making great music. And that's it. Find happiness and solace within making the best music you possibly can, and work to eliminate delusions of grandeur and ulterior motives. And you might make something that no one will like. Maybe that's just because you're speaking to a future generation that won't even come into existence for another 2 generations. Because watch, when all these kids who are blowing out their car speakers, bumping absurd amounts of bass from all these trap beats have kids of their own, those kids are going to inadvertently turn to another style of music and culture, the exact opposite of all this. And it might even be reminiscent of rock music, but even if it is, it's going to be its own thing, because every generation needs its own thing. Not what happened in the 70s, not what happened in the 90s. And maybe that new sound exists somewhere within you. That's right, you. One of you watching right now could be your own version of Kurt Cobain, Bob Marley, John Lennon, Tupac. Do you really need to be the next Kurt Cobain, the next Bob Marley, the next Led Zeppelin, the next Fafango? So in conclusion, just stop with all this competition. Music is music. There's something good in everything. Whether you see it or not, everyone's got a different perception. And if your kid listens to trap, rap, crap music that you don't like, well, you just let them listen to it. Because you know what? When they turn 30 years old, they're going to come back and be like, wow, man, Greta Van Fleet was a great band. All right, that's all I got to say for everybody today. My name is Anthony Vincent, the voice of 10 Second Songs. Thank you for watching. I will see you next week.